Greetings, beautiful people. My name is Simon Javan Okelo, and I'm excited to be here with you for another episode of Madaraka Festival. We are coming to you live from Los Angeles, California, and we are literally behind Crypto Arena where the Grammys are going to be happening today. And I'm really privileged to be here with my wonderful guest and brother, Dominic Meneses. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you for making the time for us to hang out so early in the morning. I want you to help us understand who you are, maybe by just taking us back to a time maybe when you were 10 to 13, and just paint a picture for those of us who are meeting you for the first time of how it was like growing up in LA, maybe the neighborhood you grew up in, the colors and the sounds and the smell, or the foods that influenced who you are today as a guitarist.
Well, you're saying going back to 10. I can think of going back to like 6, 8 years old.
To hear that, yeah.
So I grew up in a pretty big family.
Okay.
And I guess everyone was having kids around that time, in my family. Yeah. So I had a lot of cousins.
Yeah.
I had a ton of cousins, and we used to play outside all the time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think of just myself and like my musical journey, of who I am, goes back to like what I used to love doing with all my cousins. We used to just skateboard in the street. We would just go up and down the street.
Yeah.
We had Sony Walkman, little tape player.
Yeah.
And I remember my very first album I ever got was Battle Los Angeles, Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah.
And I would just play that as loud as I could and skateboard up and down.
Yeah.
And I think that's like just who I am as a person now, because no matter what I'm doing, I'm just listening to music way too loud.
Yeah, I love that.
But growing up, especially in that big family, the meals, right? All of us knew we had to be back in the house at noon and for dinner time, right? For supper. And my grandma used to cook just like feasts of food. But her rice was like so good, like really delicious. And that's what I think of. It's just eating good food and playing outside.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I grew up in a large family myself, you know. I grew up in a polygamist family. So in my mother's household, we were 9, you know. And then we had the first wife's household that she had even more kids, you know. And so I can relate to growing up in a big family and feasting, you know, especially during the holidays, you know. What was your favorite food then that you still eat now?
I mean, you know, it's like I'm Mexican, right? So right. Mexican food is pretty much the same thing. Just you either wrap it all up or you separate it. You know.
Yeah.
But man, I mean, the rice, the Spanish rice, is always going to be just however she made it.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because we, like myself, everybody else in my family, my mom, you know, my grandma had 7 kids. And like I had mentioned, they all had kids pretty much the same time. So that's, you can see how the cousins like really, you know, multiply there. Like there's a lot of us. We have all asked her like, how do you make your rice?
Yeah.
And each one of us, she showed us a different way. So no one really knows.
Yeah, that's fun.
We have trouble replicating it.
Yeah.
But
that's so fun.
Yeah, that, and I mean, I'm just, you know, give me a delicious burrito.
You know, that reminds me of how we grew up without any recipes, you know. Having moved from Africa to the US, I was in my mid-20s when I moved here. And I was used to cooking without recipes. But then once I moved here, you have to, well, my wife loves recipes.
I do too now.
And so whenever I cook, she was like, what recipe are you following? You know?
Yeah.
So I kind of like your grandmother's way of doing things, you know, where she keeps you guys confused, you know. So when you when you look back at your journey as a musician, you shared with us how the Sony Walkman and skateboarding in the street in your neighborhood influenced who you are now as a musician. But can you just take us back to that first moment when you actually began playing, and then share with us where you are now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess, yeah, like skateboarding, listening to that music, little did I know, was really influencing me, especially a band like Rage Against the Machine, what they stood for and how loud they were, right? How they would express themselves. My dad grew up in East LA. And so his musical scene was, what we call now like oldies, right? It's like that real, lots of harmonies, lots of jazz influence, and it's laid back music that you can cruise to. You just want to low and slow, right? You just want to drive and enjoy the road. But even like I think all of it comes from my dad, all of that influence, because he listened to everything. I think that deals with his growing up, because he had to get a job at a young age. He had to he really had to become a man at a really really young point of his life. And one of the jobs that he had was doing security. So he got to attend all of these like concerts, and he got to see a lot of major acts perform. So that really widened his his musical palette, right? That really exposed him to a lot of that. So he took what he liked, and as I was growing up, that's what he listened to. So that's what I listened to.
Right.
So it goes from Carpenters, Carole King, the Santana, lots of jazz influence, but also to The Who and other classic rock groups. So I think that's really what it exposed me to, that wide musical range. And I remember I had interest in guitar because my brother, I'm the youngest of three. So my brother's got 9.5 years ahead of me.
Wow.
And when I was real little, he was taking a guitar class. And I have very vague memory of this, but I do remember like opening the case and just playing with the strings. So I think that was like wow, this is cool. What is that?
Yeah.
And then later on, I still had interests. I remember I bribed my mom. I was like, hey, I will do all these chores if you buy me this little toy guitar. And she was like, great, you're going to do all this work in the house? Like, awesome. And we did that. I got this little guitar, and I started like really learning, well, what's happening when you put your fingers in certain spots, right? And it wasn't until I heard a band, I'll give them full credit, Sum 41, which is just a like a rock punk metal band.
Yeah. From LA?
Actually, I don't know where they're from.
Okay.
Wow, I'm a horrible fan.
Yeah.
But I just remember jumping up and down listening to the music, thinking like, I want to play guitar.
How old were
This
you
is the
then?
coolest thing. Geez, I must have been 7.
Okay.
7 or 8.
Yeah. Wow.
And I started learning. I went to a private school my whole life, Catholic school, and they, I guess, found out that I was picking up on the guitar, so they started teaching me the church music so I could play during the Mass. So I learned a lot of Latin chord changes and a lot of Latin music, and I think that's like the real foundation.
Right.
So having all of that, like that wide musical palette, learning Latin music, and then playing a lot of rock, I think that prepared me for like, being. I consider myself as like a hired gun.
Right.
When people need a guitarist, they give me a call.
Right.
So I can play almost anything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, when my band is coming to LA next time, I know who I should contact.
I'm here.
Man, have you heard about African rock?
No.
Yeah, recently there's been a wave of African rock music from Africa. I read a story on NPR about it. you should dig it. You should
Yeah.
do some research on it and
Sure.
let me know what you think.
Share with me your favorite stuff and all.
I will.
Yeah.
I will. So, since we're in LA, recently there were, wildfires that devastated, many lives. And I imagine that you or people might have been impacted by the Palisades, fires. Can you just share with us how you are and how your community is dealing with the aftermath?
Yeah, well, I mean, thank you. I'm okay. A lot of people I know are okay, but a lot of people, friends and family, were impacted. Some more than others. Lost their homes.
Yeah.
Just to give you a general idea, and the viewers, one of the couples that was just impacted, they just purchased their home this past October.
Yeah.
And 3 months later,
Yeah.
everything they worked for is
Yeah.
gone,
Yeah.
including a lot of their valuables from their childhood. I mean, it was their whole home that's gone.
Everything.
So for even me, I'm a bit a ways from where the fires were, but all of our most of LA, our air quality was really impacted. As I had mentioned, my wife and I just had a kid.
Yeah.
I was running air purifiers and we gotta keep things okay for my child. So that was more of how I was impacted,
Right.
which is nowhere near the how bad it was for some people, because man, I just can't imagine what it would be like to to lose all your just everything you've worked for.
Yeah.
There was an error too, in which everyone in LA County was given the mandatory evacuation warning. Like our phones did the alerts, and they did go out and say like, oh, this was an accident. But I remember that moment. I was working from home that day. I ran outside my house because I needed to make an escape plan. I was looking for the smoke. I was like, where's the fire?
Yeah.
And that frightened me.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what, the people that were in the midst of all that, how they felt and how scared they were. And, no one prepares for that. You're not ready for something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And the fires were moving really fast. The wind catalyzed how quickly it was destroying property. Yeah, man. Do you have any? Well, you've shared a few stories with us in regards to the impact it had on people, but do you have any inspiring story of people that you've had that have done incredible things to help some of the people that were impacted recover? And also, maybe there is someone who is viewing who could help. Do you know of any resources that those who want to help can go to?
Yeah, there's plenty of resources.
Yeah.
I can say that I do work for a major company.
Yeah.
I don't want to give the name.
Yeah.
But they donated millions to this recovery efforts, and they have provided us with those resources as well. When I think of how quickly like the LA community has reacted, it actually reminded me of the events that took place on September 11th in New York.
Yeah.
Because I was real young then, but one thing that really, I guess, stuck with me all these years is that we all came together to help. You saw a call, you saw that people were in need, and people got together. I know Dream City in Hollywood or LA, they've been doing donations and volunteer work, and they've been putting their foot forward. And that's one that many places have done it, but that's one where I have seen their work around the city. It's just really nice to see everyone come together to support one another. I've seen efforts. There was another. I can provide you with information afterwards. But there was another group that was donating cars, to those victims so they can start recouping and getting things back together.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yes.
That's really big.
Yes.
A city like LA, public transportation's not so great. You need a car.
Right.
You need a car to get around here.
Right.
So that to me that's a really big help. Yeah.
Right. That's incredible. It's incredible how far human beings can go for each other, you know. And for me, I love listening to stories of people like that, companies like the company you work for, that are going out of their way to make a difference. Now, for people who have never been to the Grammy Awards, I've been a voting member for almost a decade now, but this is the second time I'm coming to LA for the Grammys. It's the first time I'm actually going to attend the Grammys. Last year, I was just around the Grammys,
Yeah.
So how does it feel to have spent your entire life in the city that produces the Grammys?
I'm a bit desensitized to it.
Yeah. How?
Well, I mean, it's like where we met, right? Like at NAMM.
Yeah.
There were so many people in the industry there.
Right.
And I remember when I first started becoming aware of, being around those artists, and I used to be pretty starstruck, and I used to be like, wow, so-and-so is right there. And where I work, we do see, a large number of high-profile people, right? People that are influencers or well-known celebrities, that sort of deal. And there's only one person I wouldn't even know if you would say person, but there's only one celebrity that I've ever been starstruck with. And I didn't know what to say. It was Kermit the Frog.
Oh, why was that?
So I had a job that I worked in which I had to drive the Muppets around. Yeah. And Kermit was there. Yeah. He sat right behind me. Yeah. And he said hi to me. And I was like, hi. Yeah. It was the puppeteer for Kermit the Frog. Yeah. And they had Kermit.
Yeah. That's so funny.
But going back to it, I'm a bit desensitized to it because, this is the heart of that. This is the heart of the music industry. This is where everyone comes to be a part of it, you know? But I can imagine what it feels like when it's new because have you ever been in Nashville?
No, I've never been to Nashville. And actually, speaking of this is where everybody comes, this is also where Hollywood is. And many Americans actually don't know how powerful Hollywood is.
Really?
Because Hollywood influences the culture of the world, Yeah. Growing up in Kenya, I grew up in a very rough neighborhood, but we had this, tiny cinema halls by the markets where you'd find today there is a Terminator show, the next day there is a Van Damme. You know Van Damme?
I don't
Van
think so.
Damme is like an actor, Jean-Claude Van Damme or something like that. Okay. I don't know. These are all Hollywood stars that people basically worship in Africa.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And people dress like what they see in the movies. People want to talk like what they see in the movies. And that's really influence, And that also influences how even leaders behave in other countries, how what's consumed, what dresses people wear.
Yeah.
So American brands are sought after, but it's all because of this city, you know. And so just take a moment and paint a picture of LA from your perspective, for those who have never been to LA, and maybe why you're still in LA, why you love it here.
Oh, well, I mean, that's something I can say. I love this city. Yeah. I love being here. I've lived in other places, and I keep coming back here because, LA can be a little chaotic, can be a little weird at times, but it's home. It's home, and it feels like it's where I need to be. It feels like where I'm meant to be. I mean, you got so much culture here. So many new experiences. I've lived here my whole life, and I haven't experienced all of it, and I think that's what I like about it is how you mentioned, this is where, this is where people come, this is what people see, and they, there's so much talent in the world, and so many great people, they come here and they bring what they have, and then we get to experience it, so it's always new.
I love that.
Yeah.
For those who are joining us for today's episode of Madaraka Festival podcast, my name is Javan Okelo. I'm your host and also the CEO and founder of Madaraka Festival. I am here with Dominic Meneses, who is my guest, and we've talked a lot about his story, his musical upbringing, his life here in Los Angeles, the recent wildfires that devastated so many lives. And I want to remind you to make sure you give this video a thumbs up and leave us with your comment if our conversation is inspiring you in any way. And also make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thank you for joining us. And as we continue with our conversation, I just wanted you to, maybe just paint a picture for me. Like when you look at your career right now as a guitarist, what is the project you've done that has impacted you the most? And also, what are you most excited about as a musician? That if I accomplish this, I'll make my child proud.
Yeah. Oh wow. Well, I think it's a culmination of projects, and what I can talk about is one of the groups that I got to be a part of was a gospel group, and we got to play many churches, and we got to and I saw not just the impact of what it means to like connect, but I saw the impact of how important it is for for conversation. And conversation in music. When you're playing on stage, you're speaking to a whole congregation of people. And if you play soft, they feel it. If you play loud, they feel it. And that's what that taught me. It taught me how to speak to somebody in my music, how to be there for somebody in your music, how to support somebody in your music. It's one of those things where it's like, if you're sad, what's a song that cheers you up? Dissect it. Why does it cheer you up? Is it the words, or is it the way that they tell you those words? And so I take that, and that's really helped me just everywhere in my career. I think with conversing with people, with just day-to-day life, my connection with my family, being able to communicate is such an important thing. And majority of that is through sound. So currently I have a few things going on.
Tell me, I want to hear.
So I've been doing a lot of producing, mixing and mastering, more on the back end side, right? Of recording music, which is not new to me, but was never really the focus point. Was never my main goal. My best friend used to be in the industry, and he worked at NRG Recording Studios. You can find his name on a lot of things, but he's pretty much the guy that taught me everything I know. I take pride in like my ability to replicate tones and sounds, and if that's the sound you want, let's go get it. Because I don't know, mimicing's fun, right? But also we're working on live production. Just diving now into playback engineering, which is become really popular. People want to enhance their shows and make it sound like a bigger production and engage more listeners during their performance. So playback is essentially you're able to add tracks and then send cues and mixes to whoever's performing in their ears.
Right.
And that's become kind of a standard now.
Right.
But we're just diving into that, and I'm really excited because we're going to work with some cool people. Yeah.
And I can't wait to learn from you so that I can apply that in my own performances,
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, I love that. So, when you think about our conversation today, is there something I haven't asked you that you really, as you are driving here today, struggling to find parking, you're like, I really want to talk to Simon about this?
I think one thing I wanted to highlight was the importance of what it means to just, take a moment and take yourself out of what's going on and just appreciate where you are in life.
Right.
That's something that's actually been on my heart. And I think about how you and I met just the past, the past a week that we had, because all our conversation was friendly.
Yes.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah.
It wasn't a we're at this convention for music, let's talk about work and no, it was what do you have there? What are you enjoying? What do you like to do?
Yeah.
And I think people need to do that more often.
I agree. I think meeting you, it was short. It was like less than 10 minutes, but it was the highlights of my time at NAM.
Same.
Yeah, because you find that so many people are so focused on, let's network, let me meet this person. Not even, let me say, many people are transactional, many people, like we're here at the Grammys now, many people are like, who am I going to meet? And what are they going to give me? But many people forget to just slow down and just say hi and just say, that was nice of you. It was nice of you to take your time and, in fact, inconvenience other people. There were people moving around us. People were like, excuse me.
They found their way.
But at the end of the day, we are here after, just meeting for a few minutes and deepening our relationship. Now I feel like I know quite a bit of your story. And I now really want to taste your grandmother's rice, because I love rice,
Everyone asked her for it.
Yeah, man. I just want to thank you, and I want you to take a moment and look at that camera and invite everybody who's watching to subscribe to Madaraka Festival podcast on YouTube.
Yes, please subscribe Madaraka Festival podcast on YouTube. I mean, I got to see a few episodes before, and like I said, those connections, the people you get to meet, take a moment, just express yourself. That actually does just help you feel better, right? Venting is nice.
Yeah.
Venting doesn't have to be a negative thing.
Yeah.
Let's just take a moment and talk about what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's such a wonderful thing you're doing. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
To all our wonderful viewers and supporters who have joined us for today's episode, remember we are doing this live and direct from Los Angeles, California. Right behind us is the Crypto Arena, where the Grammys are going to be held today. And I'm really privileged that my brother Dominic Meneses took the time to be here with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and remember to subscribe to the channel, comment down below, and give this video a thumbs up. Thank you, and we'll see you soon. Peace.